Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 7th, 2025 meeting of the Litchfield Capital Improvement Committee. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I guess we can go around. I'll start with you, Julie. Maybe you can introduce yourselves and then we'll roll on.
I'm Julie Darling. I'm the business administrator for the school district.
Jamin Kara, NRPC.
Pete Stone, citizen representative.
Peter Plansky, school board rep.
Michael Croto, planning board.
Kimberly Queenan, selectmen's rep.
Kim Kleiner, town administrator.
Brian Burke, budget rep.
Okay, well, welcome back, everybody. It's good to see everybody. First item is public input. And I don't see anybody in the gallery this evening, so I guess I'm going to close public input. At this time. Approval of the minutes of the January 6, 2025, the last time we met. Did anybody have an opportunity to take a look at those? Have any questions? Want to amend? And I would entertain a motion to approve them if you so desire.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Plansky. Do I have a second?
I will second.
A second by Ms. Queenan. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approval of the January 6, 2025 meeting minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Anybody abstaining? All right, motion passes. 4-0-0. Okay. Thank you very much. Move on to as we do at this time of year, we need to confirm positions for chair and vice chair for the committee. Does anyone want to make any nominations this evening for chair and vice chair?
I'll nominate Mr. Croto as the chair.
Okay.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Plansky. I have a second. Any discussion? Okay, I'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstained? I will abstain. So the motion passes 3-0-1. Okay. What about the vice chair? Anybody interested in the position or want to make a nomination this evening?
Is anybody interested in the position?
I think I was the vice chair last year. I don't have a problem doing it again. It's pretty light load.
Okay. Peter, you have...
I mean, leave that up to others.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion?
I don't know. Well, I guess I could make a motion for
Good, we can have
if
discussion.
Peter would
if
like
you-
it again.
you can Certainly
I don't know.
do that.
I'll make a motion for Peter if he would like that again.
Okay. I have a motion by Ms. Queen. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Pete. Any discussion? Okay.
Yes, they're both excellent candidates, so.
They are.
They are.
They are. Absolutely.
Can we have two?
I don't know if our bylaws that we could change them, I guess. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Anything else? All right, take a vote. All those in favor of Mr. Plansky to be the vice chair, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Anybody abstain?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes 3-0-1. Okay, well, congratulations. Review of bylaws. This time of year, we take a look at our bylaws. Does anyone have any questions? I know these were sent out. Does anybody have anything that they would like to see amended in the bylaws? Anything changed or not?
I actually have a question.
Well, of course.
A question to come up whether the Board of Selectmen could do this role without the CIP. But this is, this is law that we have to do this. The planning board used to do this, and then it went to the town voters, and they voted for the Board of Selectmen to establish a committee, right?
Yeah.
So
The CIP.
I replied that way. I just want to make sure I was correct. I'm seeing the RSA here.
You are
Yeah,
correct.
so, okay.
So, after much discussion with department heads, I would like to propose that it is put out to departments that unless their project of 50,000 or more is put forth to the CIP, it will not be considered for any type of funding.
Okay.
So my problem is that I feel that there are projects, whether it's a grant, whether it's impact fees, or whether it is put up for warrant, that do not get submitted here. And I want to avoid that. I think this is the place where all the projects need to be listed so that we can determine and put forth to the select board a thorough list of all projects that have some sort of ranking. And from what I have seen in my past 3 years here, that has not always happened, and things are approved by some means of funding outside of this plan. And I think we need to correct that.
So what about the bundling that we did for library that will never hit the $50,000 threshold? I think IT sometimes does not hit that threshold too, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly had issues in the past where we have certain folks coming before the board, they have projects or things that don't meet that.
Right, so that's one.
Which I understand.
So I guess the question is, you said you wanted some kind of prioritization of these items. Do we generate two separate lists on the same plan that says, here's our below 50K threshold, here's the others, just so we can track it? I mean, I don't know how we
think
would
I said
cross-join that
50,000
prioritization of those two different buckets, though.
I mean, I don't want to speak for Kim, but I don't think that's what Kim was saying.
Right.
I think Kim was saying that there's projects that are above 50,000 that
Oh,
aren't
oh,
getting
gotcha,
submitted
okay.
to CIP.
Well, when you brought
Oh,
the
is that what
library
you
up,
meant?
I mean,
Oh, I
yeah.
thought you
So
didn't
give me
want
a for
anything.
instance.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Then I misunderstood that.
Without naming any one department, a vehicle.
Fire truck?
I don't think so.
Personally, I don't care if it's a fire truck, I don't care if it's a DPW truck. I'd like it on the list. If someone has determined there is a need within the next 5 years for X, Y, or Z, I think it needs to be on the list,
Regardless of its value or only over the 50K?
over the 50K.
Do we run into situations, though, where all of a sudden there's a grant that pops up and we have a chance to get a truck of some kind, that it may not make it to this board, and if it,
But we should
because it's
still
late,
list it,
it
right?
was-
And
we may
mark
not
it
know
as
about it
grant.
until it's,
But they
Well,
wouldn't
so-
be, if they submitted something, then they'd go after the grant. If they don't submit it, don't go after a grant.
Yeah, but
Why
they
would you
need
go
to
after a
know
grant
that they
if you
want that
didn't
thing
already know
before they
there
go
was a
after the
need?
grant, right? Grants just don't pop out of the ground and be like, here you go, money.
So a
Like some
grant
some
popped up
intent has to
today,
be
right?
there.
Clean Fleets issued today. We already funded one DPW truck through
yeah, I remember that.
mysteriously, I'm now hearing of 3 trucks that should apply for this Clean Fleets.
So,
I would have wanted to hear about those last year when we were developing this plan. I think we need to establish this thinking ahead of time.
do we
I have 3
reevaluate the
trucks, I
submission,
have
the
a
request to the
building, I
department
have
heads?
this.
do we have to, like, look at the documentation we send to the department heads and specify it's not just this year, it's a, 5, 6 year plan? And then if you come back to us later, there might be some sort of consequences. I don't know what those might be.
Well, it's a 5, 6 year plan, but they can add every year. We
Right.
change
Well,
it every
100%, but I'm just saying, like, it seems like we know that there was thoughts lingering from last year that have shown up that just didn't get on the list. I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out. How do we,
Well-
to Brian's point, like, realistically, they can be like, oh, I just had this idea yesterday, this date last year, whatever, because we can't prove when that happened. I mean,
So I-
maybe you can otherwise.
So I think some
You know.
of the concern or misinformation is, I submitted project to CIP,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't get on the warrant. So first of all, something comes to CIP,
We're not the
chances are pretty
determining
good
body
it's
of
not
that,
getting
right?
on the warrant, right? Better than not, it's not getting on the warrant. I mean, that's just the reality. But that's not the reason that you submit it to CIP. You don't submit it to CIP just because you want to try to get it on the warrant. You submit it to CIP because it's a valuable need that we need to look at all possibilities of it getting funded. And that's the mindset that I think needs to be changed is CIP is the list to say, we have all these needs, and whether it's a grant that pops up or whether it's some other type of funding, we should now go back to this list and check and
Yeah,
make
I mean,
sure.
because having the full picture is going to change your guys' view, select board's view, of their own prioritization and needs based on what the town needs overall.
Right.
So, I mean, I agree. I just, without changing the documentation to specify that, I mean, I thought it did.
Is it a mindset change for the department heads?
I think it is.
The
because
process here is okay, because it's the law says it's a 6-year plan here.
So the department head may know in the back of the head that they need another truck, but then they know that there's no chance they're gonna get it. And all of a sudden, a grant pops up, and then they want to put it
And
on
then
the
they're
list.
pursuing that.
Then they're
Right.
pursuing the grant.
So
So it's a different mindset, for sure.
it is, because I know that departments get frustrated when they go through and they do the work, and it is, right? It's a lot of work to come up with a proposal and to get the cost estimates and all that. I realize that. But we're not giving the select board or the school board or the budget committee an entire picture unless we really populate the plan.
Well, and the other
5
thing
years
is too,
out.
you start digging through the grants and looking for alternatives as well. So, I mean, that should be some sort of enticement for them to put it on the list, right? Because I know they're gonna get a hand digging that stuff up.
Right, and I can't, and the select board can't give me direction on something to do if they're not aware
Right.
of the need. And so, I think, I want departments to realize that forget about the warrant. Forget about whether you're gonna be funded this year, that's not the priority here. And
And this sheet is not the determination of warrant status anyway.
correct, it's
Individual
always,
groups are gonna do that for themselves, right?
Right.
And then get reviewed and everything else by the budget folks, so.
I mean, although it is a pain, in some respects, to go through the process of, getting bids or estimates and figuring out costs, when that grant does come around, you've done your homework. You're ready. Maybe something needs to be updated, but you've got it together, you've got it articulated, you've got a nice paragraph written. It becomes a lot easier to apply for that grant.
Right,
So-
it shouldn't be that you just heard that a grant came up, then all of a sudden you said, oh, I need a truck, I'm gonna go after it.
right.
No, you should have already
Yeah,
said
and then
you
there's
need
no
a
prep
truck.
time, and then everybody's on fire trying to scramble to get the grant submission put together.
So I spoke to Mr. Curto last week, and after that, I went out to the department heads, and I said, I want to know everything and anything that you're asking for.
And they all
Like,
called out
what's
sick.
in the back of your mind, and how many projects do you think you're gonna have to submit? And, at first it was, well, I might have one, I might have two, and I said, oh, that's all the needs you have. Well, no, okay. How many needs do you have? All of them. Lay it all on us. I don't think it matters to us whether the plan is 20 lines or whether it's 100. It's a little different to prioritize, but you also need to give us some idea of, for instance, is this truck dead in 2 years? Or 5? Or,
Well, I mean, I think it's a great point. I mean, if we don't have all the insight, then nobody can triage, then people are crippled from making the right decisions, and then alternative payment options are, I mean, not just grants, right? Other things could come up, state level stuff or other weird federal funding like we had from post-COVID and other options that we might be able to use, but, or you guys can use. But yeah.
So how is that gonna get relayed to them? You have your leadership meetings with the department heads. This form here that they all fill out, right?
I think we should
2025
put
to
some
2030.
type of wording right on the
Right.
form
What's at the top?
itself.
It just says 2025 to 2030. It's in the,
Is there instructions? Is there like a focus statement around?
no,
what-
it just
what-
says
It's just a form for them to
SIP
fill out.
2025 to 2030.
That sounds like an opportunity to put
That's,
some,
I mean, maybe, but I don't know, is this a legal form with just our logo on it, or can this be modified?
Can be modified.
Okay. I didn't know if it was a,
Normally, we always change the date, 2026,
Right.
2031, but
We can put anything we want on it.
okay.
So would that be a decision for us, or would that be a decision for the selectmen
What,
to make the change?
Make the title change?
Or to require that everything be on the list, I guess is my question.
I think that's
I think it's up to the
what we,
select board.
we can ask, but I think that's what they thought was happening.
yeah.
I think
I
they
would
thought
be
that was
surprised if
happening.
that's not what they think is happening.
I mean, we'll update them as well. Do you want a formal approval, or can,
We can get
and we
one
can
on the
talk
14th
when
if
we
you'd
were on
like.
our
I
meeting.
mean, we could always come up
we
with
can-
some kind of draft nomenclature and you can take it to them and see if they want to put that on there or,
All right, so,
just to get them going.
so the process you're gonna talk about for training or team leadership there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Department training or whatever it is. And then you want the wording also?
We probably want to get that out to them
Approval?
soon, because
Yeah.
we want to get the
Yes.
forms out
All
there.
right.
100%.
Okay, so I misunderstood. I thought you didn't want anything on this list that was not $50,000. That's what I was asking. Well, what about IT and what about library? So that was not, I misread.
Well, I think that was,
what you were saying.
there was two different conversations there and I think you and I both missed it.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's all good because I locked onto the same thing. I thought I was going the same direction you were. So, I mean, on that note, do we want to handle those differently? Do we want to track them somehow too? If they have needs, if they're not meeting the 50K threshold? I mean, if you're trying to track
I
everything,
think that's
you know.
kind
Does
of what
that
Ms.
fit?
Kleiner was
No, I know, that's what I'm
suggesting.
asking, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if there's a need, or any need, it should be considered.
But we have a threshold of 50,000. And when you talk about the library, I realize that they're a smaller component, but I think that's something that they should go to the select board as far as a warrant article, more so than a capital improvement. I mean, a $10,000 item is not necessarily a capital improvement item.
Right. No, it's not. I mean, I was just thinking about the statement. I'm like, I don't want them coming and saying, hey, we need paper towels or something else, because,
I mean,
we don't
and
need to do that either.
keep in mind too, I mean,
Yeah.
the purpose of the capital improvement plan is to have impact fees. There has to be something, I mean, obviously, the requirement is, there has to be new growth or something
Right.
to that issue. So, I kind of understand, yeah, I mean,
Well, could it be $50,000 or eligibility for impact fees for the list?
Well, it's.
I don't know how you
But they can go to
train
the
them to
town, I mean, the
differentiate.
library can go to the select board and ask to utilize their impact fees for a project.
Right.
So it doesn't have to come here, and it doesn't have to necessarily
That's
go on
fine.
warrant.
That's fine.
You have to have a CIP in order to have impact fees. But impact fees aren't the only reason to have a CIP. It is supposed to be a planning tool to help you do financial planning for the town.
And I'm not sure that the projects that have been, I think last year when we were discussing the library projects, there was one that we said, that might qualify out of the 5 or 6 that they submitted.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's pretty rare that it would qualify for impact fees.
Yeah, it wasn't replacing carpeting, those kinds of
No, I
things. Yeah,
forget which
was
one it
just-
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm just spitballing.
They're not asking
That's
for
what
a
I
new
do.
library. I haven't looked at the chart in a while. They weren't asking for a new library, right?
Security?
They had the pavilion.
Yeah, the pavilion was an improvement.
But that expanded program.
So we have a catch-22. You have to be on the SIP to get the impact fees collected.
Well, you have to have the plan in order to charge impact fees. It doesn't necessarily mean it's got to be in it. It really should be, because, I mean, I guess things could
'Cause
come
that's like
up,
the proof.
but that's the whole, that's the purpose, is saying we have a capital plan to accommodate, to address the needs of the town as it grows. So it's a harder argument if it's not in there.
So
I think it'd be less frequent though, under that threshold, but not non-existent.
we had talked about maybe being a percentage of their budget.
Well,
They had a threshold
Maybe-
over their budget of
if they
20%.
come to you guys, then, and they determine that impact fees could be used, then it just comes from the rep from the select board to get it put into the plan.
But sometimes we have a 5-month hiatus, right, between budget season and after warrant
I don't know,
articles.
I'm just,
I think the way the CIP has handled it and did with the library was it was kind of a case by case. This is the general rule.
Where's that
But
spreadsheet?
if somebody wants to come forward with something, I think the CIP committee could say, evaluate it and maybe make an exception if you really felt it was warranted for something.
or send them over to select board.
Right.
Maybe that's the thing.
But
They
you
just
did
put
do
it
that with the
on.
library. You've done that, a couple of times you did that with the
I
library.
mean, we could just tell them to put it on, and when they get here, we could kind of look through it, see if it meets the threshold. If it doesn't, we can send them back to the select board.
And your
that stuff.
definition of threshold was what?
Well, if they're
50,000?
under the 50K,
Oh, if they're
but
under
they could, but it
50K.
could be potential impact fee generation,
So if they come in with, I'm just gonna make it up, $8,000, something, and the Board of Selectmen says send it here, we add it, even though it's under $50,000, we add it on the list.
Then we evaluate it, and then we.
Then
can
they
adopt
rank
it.
it and all of that, like we normally do. Is that what we're gonna do?
I mean, because that gives us an opportunity to do what we did and try to bundle and all that other stuff before. And if that's not an option, then we can, do what Brian was saying, and just send them to the select board.
Maybe what you could just do is on the form itself, you've got 50,000 as your threshold, and then maybe there's just a note that, projects, under, less than $50,000 that may be eligible for impact fees can be addressed on a case-by-case basis, or something like that.
Yeah.
So that way if they think it's an impact fee eligible one, go ahead and submit it, even if it's less than 50.
Same with IT, they might have a big expense that's
See,
40,000, not 50, right?
Right, I
Yeah.
like that though.
Yeah,
And that process means go board, we'll work it internally.
yeah, that'll all work internally, but it'll also mean don't send us the paper towel.
Correct. Right.
Don't send us
We
the
don't need
paper what?
towels.
The paper
towels.
towels.
I
we
made a
don't need
statement, I
that.
said, we don't
What is it, paper cut?
stuff for paper towels.
Right.
So if they do show up at the Board of Selectmen first, and they ask for the money, that's one thing, and if we decide as a board, it should be an impact, it should be on the SIP, send them this way.
Yeah, but we can also put it on the form ahead of time, just to avoid having to go in a circular process. If they get the form and they think, well, I think this is eligible, submit it.
Yeah.
Who gets the form? Do you get the form?
From the department heads?
Yes. What about the library? Who gets that form?
Yes,
Yeah.
they did.
Okay, so you would know to get it on the agenda, or?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to.
I like that.
Okay, so I mean, I think this is great. I just want to circle back. Does anybody have any issues with, because I think we kind of.
We went all over.
We see what you're saying. Kind of like to.
Probably need to summarize and vote.
We were talking about the bylaws, and,
Are those in the bylaws?
now, in the bylaws, under where it says 5 preparation, it says, B says, whenever the planning or capital improvement program committee is authorized, prepare capital improvement, every municipal authority or agency and every affected school district shall, upon request of the capital improvement program committee, transmit to the Board of Selectmen a statement of all capital projects, so that's all capital projects proposed to undertake during the term of the program. And then the capital and program committee shall study each proposed capital project and advise and make recommendations to the department, authority, district, whatever, concerning the relation of its project to the capital improvement to be prepared. Do we need to make any changes to this in the light of what or do we need to add something in there about what we've just been talking about? I'm just throwing it out there to the board, what your thoughts are, or keep it, don't touch it. What would you like to do? Because I think this states what the process is. But if we want to get, if we're saying, there are projects that are under 50,000, do we need to add that in there?
Well, I mean, there's no threshold in
dollar
here.
amount.
There's no, and that's what I was looking at in the bylaws. There is no, you're right, there isn't any,
I
so.
mean, that's what we established was 50,000. I think what Jay was saying, you just put a little disclaimer on the bottom of the form that, they'll be considered.
Right.
If you want to, like, on a case-by-case basis, like,
Right.
go below that threshold.
Because that shouldn't really change the process. They're either going to come to us or they're going to.
So I think it seems like we're in consensus, and my understanding is that all projects will, all things that, all needs are gonna come here, and
I would just be,
they'll
I would just be
addressed.
concerned that all of a sudden you're gonna get flooded from all the departments of items that are under $50,000 that they want to put on the plan.
Well, I mean,
But we have the caveat of
we have the
they
caveat.
feel like they're eligible for.
Impact fee eligible, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So that should filter some of that.
yeah,
50 or impact fee
Yeah.
eligible.
Is that gonna be the wording?
Well, I guess my question is, if we need amendments to this, should we wait till Kim goes back to the select board, reviews the plan and see if they have any feedback that may impact the process flow?
Legal too. I don't know.
I can go ahead and
like
take a
the
stab
first
at
word
amending
of
the
program.
form anyhow and just send it out to
Yeah.
everyone.
The form should do it, you think?
I think
It's
the
on the
form, I
form.
think the form will cover it. It's just, maybe they have a brainstorming session like we're having and come up with something else that might change this process flow.
'Cause if the form and the bylaws get out of sync, right?
Right.
well, I just want to make sure that if we have a bylaw and this is what it's saying, that we're kind of.
That we're
that's-
following what
We're
we're saying.
following what it says to
Yeah,
do.
It's a good thing.
And, you know what I mean? But if you guys don't think we need to change it, we don't have to, but I'm just throwing it out there.
I mean, I don't think it necessarily changes this flow.
Okay.
With the instructions, I think, but again, if the rest of the select board might have feedback or somebody else has feedback somewhere, I don't know.
I think the change of the form
It's good.
will resolve that.
Resolve the issue, okay.
Well,
Well, maybe, I mean.
Read, but
So,
If you read the form.
So I think some of the difficulty was, so we talked about this at the select board, was the projects may come forth to the CIP committee, and sometimes that doesn't, or that appears to the department heads, they've done their due diligence, they've put forth the projects, but not necessarily has the select board been made aware of the projects until, the chair submits in November, December. So I think one of the things that we said was we would update them on what projects were submitted by the boards, or the department heads, so they are aware. Which
makes
will
sense.
give them a heads up, and
So-
make them more aware as we are progressing through the process.
Wouldn't it be the responsibility of, like, let's say in this case, the select board rep, to go back to the select board and say, this was presented last evening?
Well, I usually do, but I can bring these forms with us, their actual application.
Yes.
'Cause I never saw those before. They would just come in front of us and
Yeah.
speak, right?
No,
So-
but Kim was just saying that
Yeah.
the select board doesn't find out until like December.
Right.
Well,
We-
no, you
we-
find out before that if you're bringing that information to them, no different than the school board.
Yeah. But there
Yeah,
might
and I
be,
don't-
but there
I
might be
was
a
not
need to be a
doing that
paper trail.
granular.
though.
So
Already
that
like
they
that.
had a list.
Yeah, well, I think if I can get those applications, see them better, then we can review those.
Yeah, so as soon as we get those submitted, you just take copies over there.
Okay.
Because I know where Brian's heading, because
Because,
we had missing, or
And sometimes we have a discussion.
things people thought were missing.
Hmm?
Things people thought were missing last year.
Yeah,
I think that's what Brian's kind of targeting,
Yeah.
to make sure that they're in the loop and we don't have any
Yeah.
misunderstanding, miscommunication. Because if we have a paper trail, like you take those copies back, when we get them from them, you just make a copy, give it to Kim, she can take it over, and then they can peruse that while we're doing our evaluation and close that gap.
knowing they're changing, because you take a month, a month to get the spreadsheet updated, and it could change the next time they come in, but at least they have it on the radar screen for sure.
Yep.
Yep.
So like I said, is everyone good with the bylaws? Are you gonna just leave them as they are and we'll,
I'll make a motion to leave the bylaws as they are.
okay, I have a motion by Peter. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second for discussion. So Pete, seconded for discussion. Any discussion?
I think we just had a discussion.
I think we did.
We did
All right, so let's take a vote.
a lengthy one.
All those in favor of Peter's motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 4-0-0. Okay, thank you. All right.
Is there a name for that packet? Is there an official name?
It's the bylaws.
No, not for the bylaws, for the,
Request package.
yeah, the request.
CIP submission?
Submission
what it
form.
is?
Yeah, submission form.
It's in the portal, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about the one on the portal?
It's on there.
Yes, we have to update it. but
Yeah,
yes.
right, so we have to update it.
Okay, so finalizing the 2026 process timeline. Now, I know at the last meeting we had, we kind of went through and sort of set the agenda of what we were going to do. I don't think there's any issues with that that I'm aware. Everyone's good with it. I think we know what the process, the timeline is.
2026 or 2025?
This would be
Are we gonna
2025.
25.
Because the agenda says 26, I just want to make sure.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't mean 25.
26.
Is that what we call it?
Because CIP submission form will say 2026 or 2031.
Because it's going,
Yes.
because it's, okay.
Fiscal 2026.
That's what
Right.
I was curious.
6-year cycle, yeah. Okay.
I just want to make sure it wasn't a typo. Somebody wishing it was 2026.
So that brings us to discussion about the 26 submission forms. And I know we kind of, Kim, do you have anything that you want to add to that, or anything that, from the town perspective, or what we may see coming, or that you?
So I think you're going to see more projects. I think you're going to see more submissions. And I've let them know, even if we are considering a grant, that, and even if we're in the middle of drawing up to the grant, I would like to see a submission.
Okay.
On it, so, I do think that you'll see, submissions for things that did not pass, as well as, I've kind of said that I think it's important to keep everything on the table, unless the need went away overnight, which I doubt.
Okay.
I think it's important that it's on there, even if it's not the town's first priority.
Since we're gonna have the hard line of it's either on the plan or we're not gonna consider it. We also stand by the dates we have as far as presentations by both the town and the school, that whatever's presented by then, fine. After that, we're done. And they can wait till the following year, and that way, we don't have to worry about it taking longer to,
Yeah, I
Get the
know that there was
presentation going,
discussion
yeah.
about that.
And I realize with the school, I mean, everything was new with the school last year, so, but I think we have the dates set right here, and like, presentations are presented by then, that for consideration. After that, doors are closed till 27.
I'm gonna make a motion on that one right now, because I've been trying to do that for a couple of years, and it always seems to slip.
So I think to speak, not for the whole school board, but the facilities committee is close to making a recommendation, and then it's gonna be a pretty compressed timeline to get whatever that is, an RFPs out and things
Oh,
vetted.
You're
get
advocating an exception already.
I'm just saying that September 15th might be a little tight.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Peter. I think that, that is gonna be tight for us. I mean, we'll certainly work as hard as we can to try to get that together, but, you know, being that we're not starting that process quite yet, because we don't have that decision made, it is gonna be.
So Jay, do they have to be that specific as far as, like, they want a new school? Can they just come in and say it's gonna be $45 million and then go get their RFPs and do whatever, or does it have to be more specific?
Well, it has to be specific enough to, so the dollar amount,
Okay.
what it is. So, I mean, I think we have that idea.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the RFPs out.
Okay.
But if you know roughly this is what it's gonna cost.
Renovation
to construct,
versus new
right.
building, right,
Exactly.
okay.
And you know what the grades
I
are
think
gonna
we,
be.
I think we could probably have a ballpark number for that.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
If
so
that- we
it
don't need to
wouldn't be
be,
a hard number, for
Right,
sure,
and-
until,
Not to exceed?
right.
the hope, I think, of the FIC is to submit some, we have a meeting Thursday, is to be done and submit something to the school board at their next meeting, and then we'd have to put out an RFP to sort of start the process, whether that's design, build, or engineer, or whatever it's gonna be. That would be the first one the school board would put out, and then we would have kind of a, again, I don't think we'd have a final plan, certainly not with drawings and all that sort of stuff by September
We don't
15th,
need
but we'd
that.
have a,
Right.
we'd have a pretty good
It's really
estimate.
more for a placeholder, right?
Right,
It's like,
it'd
we
be
want a
more,
school
it would be more of a
$45 million.
placeholder, for sure.
And you can come back afterwards, like the, you know, the voters and say, well, we know it's on the CIP for 45 million, but it's gonna be 85 million.
No, we're not gonna say that.
No, I mean, no, but I mean, that's a great point. I mean, I mean, if you know the path and you don't have final response from the RFP, and you haven't made a down select or an award, you're not gonna know those numbers anyway, because you guys can imagine whatever you like, and they're gonna tell you what they think is gonna be, right? So there's gonna be a variance there no matter what. I mean, as long as they're in the ballpark, right, and then we amend it once we know it,
Right.
right, it should be
Okay.
okay.
And I think we can
Right.
get a roundabout number.
So Pete, you decided to make a motion as far as the hard dates. I don't know if you're making that motion.
Yes. No, I was being funny,
Oh, right.
because I know I pushed on that a lot last year and the year before. We always have good intentions in the spring, and then
Yeah.
we seem to be,
But then it just slows down the process as far as it getting presented to the select.
well, I
board.
mean, and you know, I think last year was an interesting case, just because of the timing of how stuff unfolded for the school, but I mean, the school wasn't the only one that was late, right? Other people were like, oh, can we get more time, can we get an extension? So it was just kind of like a rolling number anyway.
It did cause some problem on the Board of Selectmen side when we were trying to figure out the budget and where things could go or not, and it was moving every week,
And we
right?
spent- and we spent
It was
some
tough
time.
for us on that, so I like the hard
Yeah.
deadline if we can.
Yeah.
The school with an asterisk saying, holder, we know it may change, but at least it's there.
Oh, I mean, yeah, we can note it. I mean, and that was kind of what I was
Definitely note
getting at, because I mean, if
We
we,
hit it, we didn't have any days
if
off.
we have an idea,
It's just change,
and then
right?
it can be amended once it solidifies, I'm just, I don't want to miscalculate impacts or anything else because we have a placeholder and not a final value.
And September is.
You're never going to have it
When
by
the budget
then.
meeting's gonna be, I know they're on the calendar somewhere, but I don't recall.
Yeah.
Thought he was bringing
You
up-
might not have a final number this year.
Yeah.
We will.
So,
Well, you'll have an estimate from the
We'll have a
contractor.
number. We'll have a hard-
Well, the other thing too is I remember spending time like trying to get a calendar together, like squeezing in our last meeting and the
Right.
presentation to the select board. That's why it's like, here it is. Here's when you're gonna present, here's when you're gonna write, and that's when we need our.
And I think that's why when we started the process this time around, we kind of put together the schedule ahead of time,
Yeah.
because I think what was happening last time was, well, some other committee had the room, and then you had to
Yeah.
figure out, are we going to the fire station, are we coming here, and then, we couldn't get that week,
The
and then we had
public
to push it out,
Well,
so.
I mean, I think the other
Hearings
thing
we're
is
doing
too,
is that
looking
too,
at the
right?
schedule, it says August 18th, town presentations. Is that all of them in one night? Or are we gonna break them up? Because if you're saying, hey, I just put a shot across the bow for them to document all their stuff, might not be able to get them all done in one night unless we plan on being here all night. So just throwing that thought out
It's a
there.
good point. We might want to try to,
Might need to have
put
that.
in another meeting in there.
So, say, oh, we're done by this date, and then, the meetings might be different. I don't know.
Or we could try to squeeze another one in between August 15th and
Yeah,
18th.
September.
Yeah.
I mean, 18th and September
Well,
15th.
other than the elementary school issue, is there anything else that you think would be coming to the CIP from the school side?
Maybe the LMS parking lot,
Okay.
that's kind of in,
And I think that's, is that
Interesting.
already on the list?
it is on the list.
Well, it is
already.
on the list.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, it's already in there.
okay.
Yeah, but we reevaluate these
Right.
every year to see if they're gonna stay or not.
Change or.
That makes sense.
It just may be.
And I think that's good. I mean, obviously we have things that from before. I think we're making some adjustments on what Kim's expectations are, from the town side,
You could always put
But
the
I
school,
mean,
the town on the 15th also then. If the
What's
school
that?
is- You could also put the town, like a second date on the 15th. If the school doesn't have that many items to present.
Yeah, that's
That's a
true.
good point.
If the projects are due the 4th, I mean, if I have them ahead of time, I could send them out ahead of time. We could always schedule some to go on the 4th.
Yep, or we
true.
can once we have the paperwork, you
true.
get copies of the paperwork instead of us waiting for them to bring it in.
I'll just
Then we
send
could at
it
least-
right out.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, they haven't traditionally sent them back to you, right? They just show up with
They
it?
show up with the paper, yeah.
No.
They send them.
Oh, they give them to,
No, they
but
have
we
to
don't
send it
see them
back.
until they show up
Right.
for the presentation.
I put them on the portal.
Oh,
But that's a
So
good
they're
point,
on
Kim.
the
You're
portal.
gonna have some before then, you'll know, and we may
Yes.
be able to schedule some on the 4th.
yeah,
So,
or we can start pre-populating the plan and then
Yep.
just make edits as we review. That way we're starting to get ahead of the spreadsheet at the very least, right?
So our budgets are gonna be due the end of July. And so I'm suggesting that they have their CIP submissions done before they have their budget done.
Okay.
So that's why.
I'm just thinking
I
of
think
efficiencies to
that-
help speed us along when we get to the crunch time where we seem to
Yeah.
have good timing and then it kind of falls apart.
Well,
That's all.
due to some strong suggestions by members of another committee, I'm going to try to have warrant articles to the select board and to the budget committee in October.
Wow.
No.
So everything's moving to the left, so, okay.
So we're gonna start really early getting ahead of this.
Yeah.
Number one,
Because I don't think Crota wants another Christmas present, right?
Well, he likes
Was it
spending
Christmas
Christmas
time
with
when
the
you
select
presented?
board, don't you?
I love Christmas, so.
But they were allowing emergency non-public meetings on a Friday night,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
very tight.
We
And one
can't get
misstep,
Yeah.
you know.
I think that's all we're trying to avoid, right? And I understand last year was extenuating circumstances but, it is something we've been chatting about for the past several years.
Unfortunately, I think some people equate that urgency or that rush with not being transparent. And there's nothing that I want more. I want people to
Oh, I-
understand that we are as transparent
don't think anybody
as we
here thinks
possibly
that.
can be. So
But
that's what
externally,
I've
sure, I can
heard
see the
is
point of
that,
view.
when things have come out of left field and they feel they haven't had enough time to do their due diligence and to research and investigate, and so we're going to make that a priority on the town side
Okay.
for that not to happen.
Well, on the transparency comment, is this something that once we have a list, we don't put necessarily everything up there, but just summaries for people in the town to look at, so we don't, I don't know, I'm just thinking because, we had some folks come in last night, or last year with some comments, and I just very much thinking about not having that happen again.
I think that's a good point of, we have the town website now. It is easier, let me say that, easier to create pages. We could certainly create, a page, 2026 submitted CIP projects, and we could list them out there, a summary and maybe the expected dollar amount.
Yeah.
And then if the public, we could advertise that on the town Facebook page, go here to see the submissions. But I think you're right, is at least some people didn't feel, people forget, we all see this portal. The residents don't see this portal. So, and unless they're watching every meeting there possibly is, which I hope not, we're all busy. I think we have to do a better attempt at getting everything
Yeah,
out
I
there.
think the website's done well, and
Yeah.
there could probably be a section just for this,
They can get the minutes, certainly.
and the agenda, if they want to come in and see it ahead of time.
I mean, that's all supposed to be public anyway, right?
Right, it's all public.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know, it's just kind of the thing I do, right? When things don't go right, I'm really trying to figure out how to avoid it in the future.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is a page.
It's a software thing.
There is a CIP page, on the town website.
Yeah. No, that's great, and
I think that's good, yeah.
I mean, that might, I don't know, maybe entice some of the department heads to get their stuff done, to get their message out sooner, to help advocate for warrants and other things. Right.
Here's a fun link, view CIP video playlist on YouTube.
Oh, I don't think we want to show that.
All right.
See my sarcasm in full display.
Maybe they can utilize that sign at the dump and flash them up there.
Okay.
That's right.
So did we answer Brian's question? Is that a hard schedule here? That we're setting this, right?
I think it is. I think
Well,
if it's okay with
With an extra
everyone,
meeting
if we
thrown in
have
maybe,
town
yeah.
projects
Yeah.
that have been submitted and I've got them out to you, we'll try to fit them in the 4th.
I think between the 4th, the 18th, and the 15th of September, where the school's not gonna have a lot, I think that's
Okay.
ample time.
Yeah.
And as the process goes forward, obviously, submitting the copies to the Board of Selectmen, making sure they're updated.
Yep.
And I think if we continue that process in consistency, then I think you're putting all this information out there.
And the other thing, I mean, with the October 6th, it says wrap up, there's still other time in there if we have to schedule some other interface. So I think that works.
That makes sense. I think it's a plan.
We've been talking about an awful lot of stuff. Do we have it kind of summarized, and do we need to vote on anything? I've lost track now because we've been going for so long. It's not bad. I think it's great discussion.
I think I don't know that a vote.
I just want to make sure we didn't miss anything.
It'll all be captured in the minutes.
That's right. We can
All the
vote on
dates
the
are
minutes
right here
next
in the
time.
board.
Yeah, do we want
I got the
to
dates
vote, do we need to vote on the schedule?
We can change, I mean, we can start the 2026 page on the website with the schedule,
Oh, that's a good idea.
right?
You got to make it centralized
Sorry, it's
sometime,
in-
yeah.
It's in writing, we have.
No,
to-
no, that's
Yeah,
that's
stick to
awesome.
plan.
it. Yep.
Solidification is what we need, right? So, yeah, that's good.
The name might confuse them, 2026, they might think that's for the following year. But you can put out meetings of 2025, our meeting date's gonna have 2025 on them. Even though the form says 2026.
Well, I mean, we
It
could
might
say,
confuse them, they
yeah,
won't
For
look
the
at it.
2026 plan.
yeah, or just say, 2025 schedule for exactly, for the
Yeah,
2026.
the meeting
plan.
dates will be 2025.
To be clear.
Do we have the room reserved for all these dates?
Yes.
Yes, get the
Yes,
rooms
right.
reserved.
He makes the
Yes.
schedule, she kicks anybody out
We
she
get them
wants, so.
first.
We jumped on that.
100%. We were victimized by that, I don't know how many
We got
times last year.
Oops,
Oh, Kim changed the schedule again.
in our minutes, there was a comment that the beginning of September or September was not a good time to potentially have a meeting for SIP. Wasn't that because people were going back to school for the first week or something?
It's
Wasn't
always
that in
something.
We have September 15th, right?
School start, I think
Yeah, that
school
back in the-
starts.
It was in
Yeah,
there, I
it's
just
pretty
wanted to make sure.
27th?
Yeah, school starts in August.
Yeah, I think that's why we put it the
know,
15th, because we didn't,
Yeah, okay. But it
I
was in
think
the
we had
minutes.
Labor Day
They said
weekend
it
or
wasn't
something.
a good
Yeah, there
time.
was something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
probably that, yeah.
Just
the
making
holiday.
sure with that date there.
Okay.
Yeah, we went through some pain, I think, picking these dates.
Right.
There was a lot of looking at calendars and
Jay, anything from you on your end?
not that I can think of. I'll go ahead, I'll update the form, put that language in, send it out for everybody to take a look at.
Okay.
Julie, do you want to add anything for the school that I may have forgotten?
No, I think we covered it. The only other item I was gonna say we might be thinking about, but not a big deal, we'll cross that bridge, is the building cracks in the high
Campbell.
school. Yeah, so that might be another item, but.
Right.
But no, I didn't have anything else.
Any other business? So, Marion Colby, who is our citizens rep, has decided not to continue. I did reach out to her. Based on her schedule and things that are going on in her personal life, I think she wouldn't have that commitment to do the CIP. So the question is, do we want to look for another citizens rep? Put that out there? What are the thoughts of the board on that?
Well, we have to make sure we can have a quorum for all of these meetings we have, right?
Yeah.
So let me go back to the minutes. How many are voting members and how many aren't?
5, I think, right?
About 4 now.
So let me just look at the
four,
minutes and
four
see.
without Marion.
I just want to make sure we have,
Right.
if you go on vacation, or I go on vacation,
Yeah.
we don't slip.
But I don't
also-
think that rep comes to us. I thought they went to the selectmen.
Were they a
They did.
voting rep?
Yeah.
She was a voting member, right?
She was.
She was a voting member.
Yeah, she was.
And
So
I
we
know
need
that on May
3.
5th, I won't be at that meeting. I will be in Aruba.
I've also approached the budget committee, and we'll have discussion at our next meeting
Yeah.
to inquire as far as myself being a voting member.
Yeah, that was also what I had for me. Should I be a voting member? That was a
Well,
discussion with the
that-
Board of Selectmen too.
That's my argument, is like,
Yeah.
we have a school board rep,
Right.
we have a select rep,
Mm-hmm.
who, it impacts the two of you more than it does the budget committee.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't make any sense that if you guys are gonna be voting, then I feel I should also.
Well, we were discussing whether I should even be voting, because other towns don't allow the
Well, at a
select
certain
board.
point, if
to-
everybody isn't a voting member,
That's what I'm saying, we
right?
need to make sure we have 3 members here.
Motion from one, okay.
It'll be quick meetings, though.
This is a serious question. Even for
That's
the
the case, all you
planning
need is
board.
one for
We
a
were
quorum, you
discussing
get
the planning
50%.
board. If the selectmen should have a vote on the planning, that we
No, I
don't.
remember that, yeah.
Yes.
So we haven't
should.
resolved
I
that.
think they should.
But some
They should, and
towns don't.
I think budget vote should vote on
Is that what you were
stuff, too.
saying? Some towns do not.
So some towns do
We were
not,
answering
but I
one.
think when you are both here, you are voting the issues at hand for the town of Litchfield. So kind of, I think we've kind of heard this, well, you know, my vote is contingent on the school board, I'm representing the school board, or, oh, I'm representing the selectmen. I think we're here to vote on projects for the good of the town, for everyone. And you could certainly have a select board member that decides the elementary school is the top project, or vice versa, right? So I don't see them voting as an issue, but I don't see the budget committee voting as an issue either. I don't know.
Right, 'cause like you said, from there, it's gonna go back to the boards. They'll make that decision whether or not they're even gonna put on a warrant article, then it's gonna be the voters' decision to whether or not they wanna approve it.
Right.
Right.
Well, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to
to.
think back to
being an
when this all started, and I think it was something about the money on the plan versus the budget. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it
know there
really
were some
matters. I mean,
members
the
of
money's
budget
money,
committee
right?
that felt that they wanted to be sort of this neutral party.
Well,
because it-
there's also a member or two that feels that I wouldn't represent their thought process. But again, like you said, what I'm doing is voting for what's best for the town.
Mhm.
And then from there, the voters are gonna vote as to whether or not they agree or not agree.
So you're gonna have a discussion with the budget committee about
Right.
that, and they're
Yeah.
gonna, okay, all right.
I think the same thing with facilities, the representative for the facilities, I think, should be a voting member.
I do think if the selectmen, wish it, I think trying to get another citizens rep, I think would be great.
Yeah, I-
So
think we
I,
should.
I did speak with the chair, and there was a, press release that went out the last time a selectman's, or a citizen's rep was chosen. So we suggested putting that on the front page of the website and, probably in the next
We put that on the
newsletter.
board at the dump.
We can put it on the board at the dump. At the
And
transfer
flash in
station.
Brian's face when he's
Say
emptying
that
his
word.
trash.
Please don't equate the dump with our website. Our pages.
And see what happens, and then that citizens rep could come here, you could interview them and make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. And if that's okay with everyone, then we'll get that out tomorrow. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, obviously you'll have a discussion with the budget committee, see what their thoughts are on that, and, at that time, if everyone's good with it, then.
We'll sort it.
I think it'd be really great if we got someone that's maybe not involved in town,
Exactly.
in the town. Fresh perspective.
Yeah, it's always good to have new blood or someone who, steps into the role, someone who's not, sort of.
Jaded.
Did you say jaded?
Sorry.
I didn't say
I
it,
was
you
playing
did.
the, I was playing the devil on your shoulder dictionary.
Someone with no allegiance to any other board.
That's right.
Impartial.
Fresh pair of eyes.
Well, I think the allegiance to the other board is, you also have an understanding of what the needs are.
I know.
And that's, how we put the plan together. And again, I'll keep saying it, it's up to the voters.
Yeah.
It's not us.
I thought we had more members than this, though. Didn't we have like 7 voting
I
members
mean,
at one point?
I don't know. I remember we used to be sitting
Believe we
close to
did.
one another.
We used to really be tighter in there. I just-
Yeah.
So we always need 3,
Yeah.
right? And if someone goes on vacation, or one of us, it's tight. Especially with these public hearings in December, never mind a snowstorm, it's a real
I don't think there's been a time we haven't had a quorum. I think we've always had one.
So, obviously,
I think so, too.
getting back, if that does happen and you become a voting member, we're gonna have to change the bylaws because, just to reflect that, just to think about that.
So we want to hold on the vote on the bylaws until the outcome?
We can revisit it.
Can
I
just-
mean,
we
we
can
can
just
revisit
amend
it,
them after
and just amend it
Yeah,
as
I mean,
appropriate.
either way.
So, okay. So,
And the school votes on the budget committee, right?
What's that?
The school votes at the budget meetings.
So it's the select board.
And I think that's where the conversation originally came. So I think that's a little different. So the selectmen send a representative to the budget committee, and I think it's more expected that that representative who's there for the select board will set forth the budget and support the budget that the select board has adopted and agreed on. I think that's a different conversation than this. I think they're both there for that purpose, right, to support their prospective budgets.
I would imagine the school's
The school's the same,
way.
the school's the same way, right? The rep goes there to advocate on behalf of the school, whatever the school board has decided to do.
Bless you.
Bless you. Does anybody have anything else that they want to talk about this evening? Okay. Well, since we don't have anything else on the agenda for tonight, and I think we've covered quite a bit, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion by Peter, I have a second.
I'll second.
Second by Pete.
Keeps it easy.
The Pete and Pete Show. Any
Oh, they
further
mess our last names up. in the
discussion?
minutes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained. Motion passes 4-0-0. Well, thank you for joining us this evening, and when's our next meeting?
Here's the schedule.
I should have asked before.
May 5th.
May
May
5th?
5th, I know that.
We'll see you in May. Have a good night. Take care.